Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Siddhamrita rasasprishta Vajrasara mahojasaha Utastur megadalana Vaidyuta iva vannayaha. When the dead bodies of the demons came in touch with the nectar, their bodies became invincible to thunderbolts. Endowed with great strength, they got up like lightning penetrating clouds. Seeing Lord Shiva very much aggrieved and disappointed, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, considered how to stop this nuisance created by Maya Danava. Then Lord Brahma became a calf, and Lord Vishnu a cow, and at noon they entered the residences and drank all the nectar in the well. The demons could see the calf and cow, but because of the illusion created by the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the demons could not forbid them. The great mystic Maya Danava became aware that the calf and cow were drinking the nectar, and he could understand this to be the unseen power of providence. Thus he spoke to the demons, who were grievously lamenting. Devasuro naro nyanya Neshwarostiha kaschana Atmano yasyavadishtam Daivena pohitam vayo. Maya Danava said, what has been destined by the Supreme Lord for oneself, for others, or for both oneself and others, cannot be done anywhere or by anyone, whether one be a demigod, a demon, a human being, or anyone else. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The Supreme Lord is one, Krishna, the Vishnu Tattva. Krishna expands himself into Vishnu Tattva personal expansions, Swamsa, who control everything. Maya Danava said, however I plan, you plan, or both of us plan, the Lord has planned what is to happen. No one's plan will be successful without His sanction. We may make our own various plans, but unless they are sanctioned by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, they will never be successful. Hundreds and millions of plans are made by all kinds of living entities, but without the sanction of the Supreme Lord, they are futile. Maya Danava said, what has been destined by the Supreme Lord for oneself, for others, or for both oneself and others, cannot be undone anywhere or by anyone, whether one be a demigod, a demon, a human being, or anyone else. We are reading today from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 10, entitled Prahlad, the best among exalted devotees. Yesterday, we were reading of how the assembly of asuras being defeated by the demigods took shelter of Mayadanava, who by his incredible mystic power as a Mahayogi created 3 mystical residences in the sky. The demons taking shelter there became so elusive and very, very powerful. They were fighting and showering weapons, and often could not even be seen. This is by the grace of Mayadanava. In life, some of the most dangerous enemies cannot be seen. We don't even know they're there. We may even consider them our friends. That is the way the mind works. Bhagavad Gita tells us, for one who controls the mind is the best of friends. But for one who fails to do so, the mind is the greatest enemy. In fact, the mind is our only enemy. And yet the nature of the mind, although it is impelling dictators to exterminate innocent people, the mind is inciting civilizations to create massive nuclear bombs and even drop them. The mind is inducing even pious people to do sinful activities that bind one into miserable sufferings. The mind even deludes great yogis and devotees to divert them from the spiritual path and have to suffer like ordinary people, apparently. The mind is so powerful and has so many weapons. The weapons of lust, envy, pride, greed, anger, illusion. The most powerful astras or weapons anywhere in creation. It is due to the influence of these weapons that all other forms of destruction and cruelty are coming. And yet, neither the mind or any of its weapons cannot be seen or touched or tasted or smelled, cannot be heard with the ears. But so powerful. Mayadanava has this name for very symbolic purposes. He is especially empowered by Maya. He's a Danava who's really empowered by Maya. And he created these 3 residences. Very beautiful, very formidable. And they were giving shelter and empowering the Asuras. The Asuras began to shower all sorts of weapons. They had such force. They were so enthused by these 3 residences. You can't find a better fort. Just like if you go to Jaipur or Rajasthan, you will see fort in Udaipur, fort in Jaipur, fort in Karoli. In Maharashtra, Shivaji Maharaj has several of his forts with big walls, very formidable, difficult for the enemy to attack. The fort that these Asuras were given by Mayadanava, not only were they formidable, but they could do anything. They could fly in the sky. They could become invisible. How do you defeat that? Usually soldiers have to come out of the fort to attack. Yes? Well, here the fort attacks you. All of a sudden, the least expected moment, wherever you are, an entire fort is there, filled with Asuras. Even the Devatas could not withstand it. They were utterly defeated, vanquished, according to the words of Srila Prabhupada. So the lesson of life is, throughout the Bhagavatam, throughout the Holy Scriptures, whoever you are in this world, the invisible enemies and the visible enemies, but no, they're all the visible enemies, are being induced and empowered by the invisible enemies. All the problems in the entire cosmic manifestation come about due to the influence of the uncontrolled mind, succumbing to arrogance, pride, lust, anger, envy, and greed. That's all. They cannot be seen, but they are the power that influences all destruction and suffering. Materialistic people say seeing is believing. But we don't believe that. Because it's simply not true. Even in politics, history can be written in so many ways according to a particular person's interpretation or perception of history. And what's really behind the scenes? People are very inclined to be quick to give some explanation of why things are happening on high levels within this world. Governments, politics, tragedy, so many things. But who really knows? Even the people who are instruments of doing these things don't even know who's behind them. Yes? There may be people manipulating who have huge amounts of money. Nobody even knows who they are. But they control. It's the way the world has always been. And there are people who may be very, very powerful. But who is actually controlling them? Everything is being done by Maya in this material world. Maya is invisible. And the mind is invisible. And her weapons are invisible. Seeing is believing. When we see through the eyes of the scriptures. But when we see with these eyes of flesh, everything is so imperfect. Cannot even see through this wall. Is there a reality beyond this wall? At night when you go to sleep, you cannot see anything with your eyes. Some people, half their life is like that. Does that mean nothing exists anymore? So we must learn to see through the eyes of God. And how do we see through the eyes of God? Krishna reveals the truth as he sees it through the Shastra or the Holy Scriptures. And it is explained in practical ways through the gurus and the sadhus. Very important. So the nature of this world is whoever you are, there will always be powers greater than you. Even the devatas were defeated. They took shelter of Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva, always eager to help. And who is Lord Shiva? He's an Amsa of Vishnu. He's actually the Supreme Lord in a special feature. And he has the power of destruction of the guna avatars. He has the power to destroy the entire cosmic manifestation. And we know that destruction is the preliminary stage of creation. Yes? Things are destroyed and they're created into something else. Everything is so interconnected. He is Mahadev, the greatest, most powerful, invincible of all the devatas. So he came to give shelter to the devatas. And he started shooting his fiery arrows at these 3 residences in the sky. And asuras, however powerful they may have been by Mayadanava's arrangement, how could they stand before Lord Shiva? Prabhupada said 1 moon is better than thousands of stars, even millions of stars, as far as giving light in the sky. So similarly, 1 Mahadev is better than millions of Devs. What all the demigods couldn't do, and how many millions of demigods there are, what all of them couldn't do, Lord Shiva could do. He defeated them all. He killed them all. Not only vanquished, they were all dead, all the demons. Cold dead. But Mayadanava, he wasn't the slightest bit discouraged. He was a Mahayogi. He created a well and filled it with Amrit, nectar. Specifically, Mrityu Sanjivani. The technical explanation. Yes, Dave, to satisfy Murlidhar Prabhu's professional, scientific inquiry, he gave a technical explanation. Prabhupada told in the purport yesterday that even today there is this Mrityu Sanjivani. which is a type of liquor. And somebody who's on the verge of death, it gives them strength. So since it's liquor, you can't take it unless you're on the verge of death. But Mayadanava went and just threw all the demons in this well of nectar. He just picked them up and threw them in. Yes? And by coming in contact with that nectar and then drinking it, they rose from the well. Not only did they have their life back, but they were more powerful than ever. Their bodies became invincible to thunderbolts. This is a lesson of how what appears to be a setback, if we just take shelter of the right shelter, that setback becomes a blessing. It transforms us, if we take shelter, it transforms us to become more strong, more powerful. So the tests that come to us in life are the greatest opportunities. Even our failures, if we just take shelter of the Lord, we become stronger through the process of failing. We become stronger through the process of losing. We become stronger through the process of dying. We become stronger when there's massive impediments that are inhibiting our service. That is a principle, both materially and spiritually. All materialists become strong due to impediments. Yes, we see every great man or woman in history has had major setbacks, serious failures, great impediments, sometimes to their health, sometimes politically, sometimes spiritually. Every impediment that came before Prabhupada made him stronger. Every impediment that came to the followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made them more enthusiastic. The Christians, with every death of a martyr, tens and thousands of Christians were converted. Even death makes stronger when we take shelter of the Lord. And materially, so many stories. Every great man has gone through so many failures. The demons, the pious people, everyone. Tests them. Makes them powerful. Even devotees, when they go through tragedies, they become purified through the process and become empowered. So that's what happened with these asuras. It's a material principle too. Look at great people. Look at even demoniac people. Hitler was a failure his whole life. He lost elections. He was rejected by society. He wanted to be an artist and nobody liked his art. But he just kept going. And soon he was practically ruling the world. It's a principle. It works for everyone. Impediments and failures make us strong if we don't give up. Walt Disney. You've heard of Disney? Well, at one time nobody heard of Disney. His first job, in an animation company. He was fired because they said he had no creativity. No, most people would be discouraged and get a job at a gas station or something. Go to college and study law. But he didn't give up. He tried even harder. And now look, he established the trend for the whole world in that field. In every case. And it especially is true for devotees. Krishna will give you impediments. Krishna will put tragedies in your life. Krishna will put inconceivable obstacles. What's required? In the same way, the demons took shelter of Mayadhanava when they were really in problem. We take shelter of Krishna and his devotees. And especially we take shelter of the holy name. And the Lord is always there to give shelter to his devotees. But how the Lord gives shelter to his devotees is according to what's perfect in his opinion, which is usually not what we expect. Because if we knew, we wouldn't be in the mess we're in today. When we take shelter of Krishna, we think Krishna will give me this. It's like an order sheet. I'm going to take shelter. There's a big problem, and this is the way my problem will be overcome. But Krishna knows exactly what you need as a devotee. You may be facing a terrible problem. And then you take shelter of Krishna, and he makes the problem worse. And then you take shelter of Krishna more, and not only does that problem become worse, but he puts 10 more problems even worse on you. He may do that. It's just what we need. He may want you to really, not just physically be on your knees, but in your heart of hearts, Krishna, I'm yours. Not just Krishna, I'm yours. Krishna, I am yours. From the heart. Not that we just chant Hare Krishna to get our rounds done. We chant Hare Krishna because there's no other way. There's no other place to turn. Hare Krishna. And in this way we become strong. In Krishna consciousness, how do we become strong? In studies, when there's impediments and everything else, we become strong by refining our intellect through tapasya. In athletics, we become strong often by struggling and straining and losing so many times and learning lessons by why we lose and keep getting better. In business too, we become strong when we fail. Like Thomas Edison. 900 times he failed in his trying to create a battery. And a newspaper said, aren't you discouraged? 900 failures? You still haven't got one? He said, no, this is very, very good. He said, I have come close to discovering what I'm looking for. Closer and closer. I have realized 900 ways it doesn't work. Now, how many of you would keep trying if you failed 900 times? Probably think, well, let me create something else. invent something else. He was persistent. He grew. That's why he's so great today. So when we take shelter of Krishna, we have to have that faith. What it really means to take shelter in the spiritual sense is not that because I'm taking shelter of Krishna, he's going to do what I want him to do. To actually take shelter means, Krishna, I'm yours. You know what's best. I don't. I'm yours. And then whatever comes, we accept it as his mercy and carry on with full determination and enthusiasm. So setbacks. The whole Srimad Bhagavatam is about setbacks that come to devotees. The Pandavas and their mother Kunti, Prahlad, Dhruva, Ambarish, the Brijabasis, Rantidev. Many setbacks. Maharaj Shibi. They took shelter, willing to give their life. And became not only powerful, but inspirations for all eternity, for everyone. So the demons they fought, they took shelter, and because they took shelter of Mayadanava, even though first they became very powerful and defeated the demigods because of Mayadanava, and then Lord Shiva came and killed them all. Now once you're dead, you can't take shelter of anybody. But because previous to dying they took shelter, Mayadanava felt, they have taken shelter, I'm responsible for them, they are mine. So he personally took it upon himself to plunge them in the nectar and bring them back to life and make them stronger than ever. And this is Maya, an asura, or whatever he is. He's kind of a tricky person to figure out, Mayadanava. He built Yudhishthira's palace, so and he made allies with Arjuna and Krishna. Yes, so he's a very, very mysterious personality. Sometimes he's with devotees, sometimes with the demons. If you take shelter of Krishna, even if you die, Krishna's going to take responsibility. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter how you die or where you die or what reason you die. If you've taken shelter of Krishna, if Mayadanava is saving the demons after they die, what to speak of Krishna? Antakali chamam evam smaran matvam kalevaram. Krishna says, just remember me. And even at the time of death, I will take you to my abode. Have no fear. Have no doubt. Krishna says, have no doubt about this. So once we take shelter of Krishna, really take shelter of Krishna, we're his. And even if sometimes people say if a devotee is in a coma, he can't remember Krishna so easy, can't chant. But if that devotee before going into that coma took shelter of Krishna, he's Krishna's. Krishna's going to take charge of his soul. External physical reasons are really not very important. Krishna tells in the Gita, if you die at a certain time, you go here, and if you die at a certain season, you go there. Yes? But then Prabhupada and the Acharyas say, but if you're a devotee, none of these things matter. Krishna's in charge. Sarvadharman parityasya mamekam sharanam praja. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo moksha yishamimad. If you surrender to Krishna, you're His. Nothing to fear. Whatever your limitation, whatever the circumstances, as long as we're trying our best, Krishna's there for us, in life, in death. He can empower Mayadanava to do it to the Asuras. What to speak of when he personally takes charge of his own devotees. So when they came out with these invincible bodies, stronger than ever before, more intellectual than ever before, in every way they were empowered by drinking this nectar. Physically, emotionally, intellectually, every way they were just empowered. This nectar was very delicious too, probably. And it was always there, this well. And they vanquished the demons, the demigods again. And now what is Lord Shiva supposed to do? Whatever he does, Mayadanava is just going to put them back in the nectar and they're going to come out even stronger. Like weeds in a garden, you know. If you cut a weed, it grows back even stronger than it was originally. The more you cut it, the stronger it becomes when it grows back. And they multiply. Unless you pull it out by the root. So Lord Shiva was really in a dilemma. I'll kill them, they'll become more powerful. I'll kill them again, they'll become more powerful. This could go on for eternity. This nectar is just too much. So Lord Shiva, why was he discouraged? He was very much disappointed. Lord Shiva was lamenting. What are the particular words? Yes, Lord Shiva, very much disappointed and aggrieved. Mahadev is aggrieved and disappointed. Now, Krishna says in Gita, Brahmabhuta prasanatmana sochati nakangshati, that one who has attained Brahman realization neither hankers nor laments. There's nothing to aggrieve. There's nothing to be disappointed about. Now, Lord Shiva is far beyond Brahman realization. Most people who are seeking Brahman realization are worshipping Lord Shiva. So why is Lord Shiva aggrieved and disappointed? Krishna says in Gita, you're not supposed to be attached to the fruits of your activity. Don't be elated by success. Don't be disappointed by failure. Don't be overjoyed by victory. Don't be saddened by defeat. This is the Gita. And Shiva's Vaishnavanam Yata Shambhu, he's the greatest Vaishnav. If he's aggrieved and disappointed because things are going wrong, what's our hope? Is this interesting? We should understand the greatness of Lord Shiva. His aggrievement and his disappointment was not because of his own personal victory or defeat, success or failure. It's because of his compassion. Paradukaduki. Great souls feel pain to see others in pain. They are aggrieved to see adharma. When Srila Prabhupada looked at the world and saw all the cheating, even in the name of science, when he saw all the exploitation, even in the name of material progress, he was aggrieved. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself. And he expressed to Haridas Thakur that he was aggrieved to see the whole universe filled with people who are forgetful of Krishna. Prahlad Maharaj, even after showing how transcendentally pure he was by going through all those catastrophes and never losing his faith, after all that, he's expressing, I'm aggrieved for my father, who's going to suffer in hell. I'm aggrieved for all the living entities within this universe who have forgotten you and who are trying to make material arrangements for happiness and destined to suffer. So great persons are aggrieved to see the sufferings, the illusions of others. The demigods took shelter of Shiva for a good reason. And Shiva was not able to give them shelter. So he was aggrieved and disappointed. Even the greatest of the great amongst devotees and devas falls into such situations in this material world. And you're thinking that doing a little meditation or pranayama or chanting Hare Krishna a few times and everything's going to be all right. You can think that if you like. But what is the use? It's not going to be all right. The material world it's not like that. So what does Lord Shiva do? Because Lord Shiva is Vaishnavanam Yatha Shambhu, the greatest of all Vaishnavas, he's always under the shelter of Krishna. And so Krishna, he took it upon himself. And how he does things, just to make the story so sweet, he could have thrown some big fiery weapon, the Sudarshan Chakra, to dry up that nectar well, right? He could have done it in many ways. He could have just sent some massive avatar to just jump down and drink it. But he canvassed Lord Brahma, and Brahma took the form of a calf, and Vishnu a cow. Now this is an amazing thing in the middle of a war. It's the middle of a war between the Asuras and the demigods. This is not just like World War I or World War II. This is really a war. This is a universal war, not a world war. You would think, he would just appear in the Virat Rupa and dry up the well. No, he comes as a cow. And even more incredible, for a cow to come with a little calf. You know how sweet and beautiful little calves are. So innocent. And cows, they move and they moo. It just brings such peace, seeing a nice cow. So Krishna could have come in the middle of the night when nobody could see. Yes? But Krishna came in the form of a cow in the middle of this battle at noon, which is the absolutely lightest time of the day. Yes? When the sun is at its peak. Krishna really stages things in such a perfect way. He comes right at noon. And this cow and calf, they just walk through everything, and everybody's just looking at them. And the Asuras know that this well of nectar is their only hope. Because Shiva, they're fighting Shiva. Without this well of nectar, they're going to die and never come back. And they're really attached to their bodies. That's the definition of an asura. That I am this body. Very, very much. If you think you're attached to your body, they're willing to massacre millions of people just to sustain their body. The nature of an asura is everything is centered around me. Yes. My body, my mind, my prestige. So they're just looking right in the middle of the day. No disguise as far as this goes. Calf and cow just walk right up to the well of nectar. And they start drinking. And it doesn't give any details, but we could imagine. They're not looking around, seeing if anyone's looking. They're just drinking. Just absolutely casual. Just, you know how cows lick their lips. And the demons are watching. It's very similar to Mohini Murti. Right? They were after nectar. And they got nectar, and Mohini Murti just right in front of all of them. He gets the asuras to give her all the nectar that they fought. First they worked so hard for so long to churn the ocean to get it, and then they fought the demigods to get it. And they had it. It was theirs. And Mohini Murti comes and just... she didn't do anything except smile. That's all. She just walked in and smiled. And she glanced at them. Each one of them. And each one of them... she loves me. That's what happens. That's what happens to people. She just looked at them, smiled, and she loves me. And they were all fighting amongst themselves who was going to get the first share of nectar. They all unanimously agreed. Whoever you are, we'll give you the nectar, and you could decide who gets it. She didn't even ask for it. She didn't say, give me the nectar and I'll marry you. She didn't say anything. They just voluntarily gave her everything just because she smiled so nicely. And they were all convinced, she will give it to me. Of course. She loves me. And then right in front of their eyes, she started pouring it in the mouths of the demigods. And the demons just stood there and watched. How is that possible? That's exactly what happened here. Krishna's all powerful, whether he's a Mohini Murti Mataji or a cow Mataji. Very powerful. He didn't come as a bull, he came as a cow. Cows are girls. They're not known for fighting. So the demons are watching at noontime as this cow and calf drink every drop of nectar. Shri Vishnu Bhagavan ki jai. And then the cow and calf just walk away. And the demons are just watching. They go wherever their Goshala was, they return to. The demons didn't do anything. They just watched. This is the power of the illusory energy of the Lord. Krishna has his Yogamaya and his Mahamaya. And even Maya Danava is empowered by this Maya, the energy of the Lord. And then, still, the Asuras were so powerful. Shiva on his own could not defeat them, because they already drank their share. So Lord Vishnu then arranges to give Lord Shiva a chariot, armor, a bow, arrows, shields, and inspires Lord Shiva to fight. And now, knowing that Vishnu is taking interest in empowering him, Lord Shiva realized, I am indestructible. And he starts shooting fiery arrows. But at this point, just before Krishna comes and arms Lord Shiva, the demigods see the calf and cow drink everything. And Maya Danava explains to them what we're reading in this verse. Very powerful verse. What has been destined by the Supreme Lord for oneself, for others, or for both oneself and others cannot be undone anywhere or by anyone, whether one be a demigod, a demon, a human being, or anyone else. Srila Prabhupada here explains that Krishna is the supreme controller. Ishvara Parama Krishna, Satchit Ananda Vigraha. This is how Lord Brahma begins the sector of Brahma Samhita. Ishvara Parama Krishna. That's the foundation for everything else he's going to say in his descriptions of the Lord. That Krishna is the supreme controller. That in and of itself sets the stage for all of Krishna's pastimes. Krishna is not an ordinary being, although he may appear. He may appear like a cow. He may appear like a cowherd boy. He may appear like a fish or a turtle. He may appear in so many different ways according to his sweet will. But he is the controller of all controllers. All frustrations are due to our wanting to be the controller. But the problem is, we are always controlled. Nityo nityanam chaitanas chaitananam eko bahunam yovedadati kaman. The Upanishads tell, there is one supreme controller who is independent. And there are innumerable little pieces of God who are always under the control and subordinate to the Supreme. We are controlled by the mind. We are controlled by destiny. We are controlled by devatas. We are controlled by higher powers within this human race. We are controlled by the weather and the elements. Yes? But Krishna is the absolute supreme controller of everything. Ishvara Parama. He is in control of everything that exists in all material and spiritual worlds. And when we understand this, and when we have some realization of the power, the might, and the glory of Krishna, then our hearts melt in ecstatic love when we see him bound by the rope of Mother Yashoda and crying, lips quivering, limbs trembling, begging his mother, please don't hit me with your stick. For Krishna, a stick in the hands of a lady? Krishna's not afraid of the club in the hands of Vritrasura. What? He's not afraid of the bows and arrows and the clubs in the hands of Kamsa or Hiranyakashipu. But he's afraid of a little gopi's stick. It wasn't a gada. Just a little branch. What? Just a little stick. Even if she hit him, it wouldn't hurt. And she wasn't intending to hit him. And he knows everything. So why was he afraid? And our acharyas say it wasn't that he was just pretending to be afraid. Some people think, oh, Krishna just wanted to charm our hearts, so he pretended to be afraid of the stick of Yashoda. He was actually afraid. Because the all-powerful, the universal form that Arjuna saw is utterly insignificant compared to Krishna. Yes? Universal form was just a temporary, illusory manifestation. Krishna is the source of all these manifestations. He's avatari. He could lift Govardhan Hill. He can expand himself and choke Aghasura. He could bifurcate Bakasura, who is as big as a mountain. Can you imagine a bird as big as a mountain coming to swallow you? What would you do? Hare Krishna. The entire Indian army, with all their bombs and artillery, could not kill Bakasura. Really? They couldn't even kill Vatsasura. Just a little calf. That's how powerful these mystic yogis were. But Krishna effortlessly. And yet he's not just afraid. You've seen your little child when you pick up a stick. They usually say, you're not going to hit me. Or they may try to fight you. Or they may be a little afraid. But we have not seen fear like Krishna manifested. Lips quivering. Limbs trembling. And the tears, just to accentuate. He arranged for Yashoda to put this kajal all around his eyes. So as he was crying, so that everybody could really see that he was really crying, his tears mixed with the black ointment and made black streaks down his face and over his chest and on his legs and his arms. He was crying. And he was pleading with Yashoda with a plaintive voice. Please put down that stick. I'm so afraid of that stick. When we understand Krishna as the supreme controller of all controllers, and who he really is, that's why before we could really relish the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, we must first realize the teachings of Bhagavad Gita. And understand the power and glory of the Lord in the first 9 cantos. As Varahadev, not only did he just with one smack of his hoof kill Hiranyaksha, but he lifted the entire earth planet on his nose. Yes? What can you do with your nose? Just make a mess of things. Huh? He lifted the entire earth with his nose, and then he started flying in the sky with it. What? Effortlessly. So we understand how Krishna is the controller of all controllers. And then when we see him afraid of his mother, our hearts melt. And when our hearts really deeply melt in that appreciation of how Krishna is so much, how he is the controller of all controllers, is controlled by his devotee. For no other reason except love. Prema. Krishna's prema controls the devotee, and the devotee's prema controls Krishna. When we understand the greatness of Krishna, and then we see how he's controlled by his devotees, we surrender to Krishna with so much love. It's just so beautiful. It's the most wonderful thing that exists. The all-powerful is controlled by his own devotees. And when our love reaches a certain point, like the residents of Vrindavan, then the realization and the knowledge of him being the supreme controller, it's forgotten. It's covered by his madhurya, ras, his sweetness, his innocence, his charming personality. The cowherd boys just saw Krishna as their friend. They wrestled with him, they fought with him, they played with him, and they usually won. Krishna would like to lose. Such loving relations. They didn't think of him as God, the controller of all controllers. But then when some great asura came to attack, like Indra, when he started showering torrents of rain, then the gopas, the gopis, the cows, everyone came to Krishna. And Krishna, Krishna, Mahabaho, please save us. You're our only shelter. After Krishna danced on the Kaliya serpent, the residents of Vrindavan all went to sleep with Krishna in the forest. And in the middle of the night, a blazing fire. This fire was actually a demon. It wasn't just an impersonal fire. It was an asura sent by Kamsa. It was a powerful fire going to the sky. A fire like we've never seen. And what did they do? They turned to Krishna. They knew Krishna could protect them. And then Krishna just swallowed the fire. That's all. We could have had every fire brigade on earth with their sirens coming to the scene and spraying and putting. You could have airplanes coming by and putting all those powders, those anti-fire powders all over. They could they could never extinguish that fire in Vrindavan. It was a mystical fire. But Krishna, he didn't work at all. He just, one breath, all went inside. And they saw it. Amazing. How was this possible? But then as soon as it was done, their love for Krishna was so much, they forgot it. And even if they remembered it, they justified it in so many ways. It must be some demigod protecting us because he's such an innocent little boy. This is Vrindavan, the highest realm of love. So Maya Danava, it takes one to know one. We've seen his power. He could make that palace for Yudhisthira. He made it so amazing. It was so beautiful. And the architecture was so intricate and so bewildering that what Duryodhana was coming to visit, and what happened? He just fell in water or something. He couldn't distinguish what was what. And some ladies laughed at him. And egoistic tyrants like Duryodhana don't like when ladies laugh at him when he makes a mistake. It's too much. He was so envious. So Mayadana was very powerful. He's speaking with tremendous realization. Because he's a controller. That whether you're a demigod, whether you're a demon, whether you're a human being, or whether you're anyone else, what is destined by the Supreme Lord for oneself, or for others, or for both oneself and others, cannot be undone. That is the destiny of the Lord. We can try. That is the principle of Bhagavad Gita. Krishna tells Arjuna, fight. But don't be attached to victory or defeat or anything else, because that's all in my hands. When Srila Prabhupada came to America at one point, afterward, he told us, he said, so many people were telling me I should go to London. Because really, London was controlling India for about 200 years. That seemed the natural place to go. It was much closer, too. Prabhupada said, I decided I will go to New York. He said, because my Gurudev sent several of our top people to London, and they failed. So Prabhupada said, I was thinking, if I have to fail, let me do it in a new place. Prabhupada tried. He gave his heart, his soul, his everything to try. But he understood ultimately everything is in Krishna's hands. And in the Jaladuta prayer, he reveals this. Krishna, if you want, you can make my power to speak in such a way that they will understand. I'm just your puppet. Make me dance as you want me to dance. So we can try for something. And we may be successful and we may fail. We understand. We may live, we may die. For a devotee, we are in Krishna's hands. It's not just the laws of karma. One who surrenders to Krishna, their life, their death, their everything, cannot be calculated simply by material considerations. Because they're in Krishna's hands. And being in Krishna's hands, if they just take shelter, their life is perfect. And we see, materially, spiritually, throughout history, we can see how destiny works to guide people, to make mistakes that are so foolish that how could a person like this make such a stupid mistake? And then they lose everything. Or the same person makes all those even more mistakes and wins everything. The destiny of karma is how this world works. But when one takes shelter of Krishna, we are under his control. And nothing could change that. Mayadanava saw this calf and this cow drink all the nectar that he produced. Now Mayadanava could have made some more nectar and filled another well. He had that power. But he thought there's no use. He could see it's the will of the Lord that you're all going to lose. So I'm not going to help you anymore. There's no use. No matter what you do, no matter what I do, no matter what both of us together do, nothing can change the will of the Lord. It is our destiny. All we could do is surrender and take shelter of the holy names. Many times Srila Prabhupada talks about all the plan making of this world. So much plan making. But at any moment, everything could be changed. Whatever plans we make. Srila Prabhupada ends this purport. We may make our own various plans, but unless they are sanctioned by the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu, they will never be successful. Hundreds and millions of plans are made by all kinds of living entities, but without the sanction of the Supreme Lord, they are futile. Is there any questions? Yes, Radhe Shyam Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Maharaj, in the Chitraketu's pastime, Narada and Angira are very strongly condemning Chitraketu for aggrieving over the lost son. So I had a question here, like in this pastime we read, when one experiences a loss, should one lament, or should one lament and pray, or should one give up lamentation and prayer and just act, understanding that the inevitable destiny is controlled by the Supreme Lord? Let me just perform my actions. So we only find Lord Shiva lamenting here in this, and then it seems that Supreme Lord himself took the action of helping Shiva.
What in particular are you speaking about? No, I'm speaking about in your own life. Or it's just a general philosophical...
I was asking Maharaj, whenever we think of the destiny, I used to often feel that we will do our endeavor and the result is in Lord's hands. So better just act and not just lament or pray. Because some people, they insist a lot that we should pray to the Lord. And
well, first of all, Lord Shiva did not lament. He was aggrieved and disappointed. Lament generally means you give up. He was aggrieved to see the suffering and the imminent suffering of the demigods and all living beings being conquered by the asuras. He was aggrieved by that. And he was disappointed that he was not able to give them shelter. So everything was based on both compassion and service. But he didn't give up. He took shelter of the Lord. He was still going to fight, but he took shelter of the Lord. So we should never give up. That is the principle of Bhagavad Gita.
Maharaj, even in the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, there is a verse which says, Samashatrau cha mitre cha tata mana apamanayo shitoshna sukha dukkeshu samasanga vivarjitah. So in that verse, Lord Krishna says that a devotee should be equipoised in sukha and dukkha. Even in the 12th chapter, in the devotional service chapter, he says that. Apart from that, he also says, na prahrishayet priyam prapya na udvijet prapya cha priyam. He says that also when we get profit or loss, one should not be elated. Of course, that he says in many, many places in Bhagavad Gita. But I was very particular about the 12th chapter, where he is talking about devotional service. So when a devotee experiences a loss or a gain, should he label it as destiny, what has happened by Lord's will, and then go on with his life, or should he dwell on it, lament about it, or think about the loss, or pray to the Lord, or think about the possibilities why it happened and things like that? That's my question, Maharaj. If a devotee loses some big money, say for example, sometimes a devotee loses say 20,000 rupees or 25,000 rupees. So we could behave in different ways. One is to worry about it, how that money was lost. We may scold the devotee, or we may lament about the destiny, or we may endeavor to get that back. And if you are not able to get it back, then attribute it to destiny. So what is the right behavior for a devotee? If a devotee, it may also be due to irresponsibility on the part of the devotee, because of which he may just attribute it to destiny. So I wanted to know, whenever we experience a loss of assets or property or anything like that, what should a devotee attribute it to?
Either way is destiny. If you do everything right and you lose, it's your destiny. There was nothing else you could have done. You were meant to lose. Born to lose. We all are. Or if you make serious mistakes and you lose, it's destiny. It's a reaction to your mistakes. In which case, you're supposed to learn from your mistakes. So everything is ultimately in the hands of destiny, but we're making our own destiny. A devotee makes his own destiny or her own destiny according to the karmas we create and according to the effort. But for a sincere devotee, we have to understand there's something beyond that. Because when we're engaged in devotional service, it's not just karmic destiny anymore. Krishna's will is there. Krishna's intervening within that destiny to help us. Karmically, we may have been destined to succeed. Yasyaham anugrinami harisheta danam shanai. But if you really take shelter of Krishna, Krishna may intervene in your successful destiny and make you fail. if that's good for you. Yes? Or the opposite. You may be a very, very untalented person karmically. We've seen it. Devotees are just kind of nothing socially. But they surrender to Krishna, and all of a sudden, Krishna's manifesting the most amazing miracles through them. So Krishna is the ultimate controller. And if we understand that Krishna is the ultimate controller and we're taking shelter of Krishna, then whatever may happen, yes, we see it as destiny, but we never become discouraged. We may lose a battle, but we never stop fighting the war. Sometimes, even in a battle, you may retreat and stop because it's not good. But you never stop fighting the war. And many devotees lose many battles, but in the process, they just keep turning to Krishna. Ultimately, they do win the war. They go back home, back to Godhead. So if somebody loses a lot of money, no, he should not lament for that. It's all just material stuff. It has nothing to do with the spirit soul. But if we're trying to use it in Krishna's service, then we should be trying for it. When Prabhupada established, fundraising to build Radharas Bihari Temple or the Mayapur Temple or the Vrindavan Temple, Krishna Balaramji, he was putting devotees in a lot of anxiety to raise those funds. Yes, there was anxiety. And sometimes when things weren't working, they were in distress. But they kept trying. So to accept anxiety for the service of Krishna is a good thing. We shouldn't give up. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, his devotees, best preachers, sometimes came very much disappointed that they went to a big preaching program and one or two people came. And Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati was in ecstasy. He said, 2 people, very good. If no one comes, then you should be just as enthusiastic to preach to the 4 walls. Yes? Srila Prabhupada, the first big program they ever had in ISKCON, they rented out a big hall in New York City. They were giving out free tickets all over the place. And just a couple people came. The whole hall was empty. And Prabhupada preached as if there was 1,000 people there with that enthusiasm. Devotees were totally disappointed, but Prabhupada was not. They said, Prabhupada, we're sorry. Prabhupada said, sorry, you didn't see? Narada Muni was there. Lord Brahma was there. Now what that means, we understand that Prabhupada actually saw Narada Muni. He came. But even if you don't see him, if you're trying to do your service for the parampara, the whole parampara is there. If you're acting on the order of your spiritual master, Narada Muni, Lord Brahma, 6 Goswamis, Panchatattva, they're all there, hearing what you're saying. Yes? So they are there, along with the 4 walls. So Krishna sees our purpose. Krishna doesn't accept what you offer. He accepts the purpose in which it's offered. The intention. And nothing in this material world has the power to change your intention if by your free will you keep your intention for the service of the Lord. Yes? Whether you're living in a palace or whether you lose everything and you're under a tree. Nothing can take away the intent to please Krishna, except your own free will. And that's what Krishna accepts. That's really the only thing that's important, is your intent, your devotion. So if we understand that principle, we're never in a hopeless situation. Death is not hopeless if our intent is to please Krishna, to take shelter. Losing so much, you're going to lose it anyway. The time of death. Mrityu saravach chaham. Krishna is death personified. He's going to take everything anyway. So whether it happens in this life or at the end of this life, it really is just a detail. So yes, we should see that there is a power beyond our own that is controlling the results of my actions. And whether the mind laments, or whether the mind is discouraged, or whether the mind is aggrieved, losing money is one thing. Losing a loved one is even a deeper pain. Losing one's position is another pain. There are so many ways of pains of loss. And we may be aggrieved. The important thing is when we understand the all-powerful will of the Lord, that ultimately everything is happening according to that destiny for a devotee. In that situation, whether we're aggrieved or not, whether we're lamenting or not, Krishna is telling us to rise above those things. Rising above those things doesn't necessarily mean that they're not there. It means our purpose, our intent, and our actions are for a higher purpose. We were discussing yesterday, Arjuna aggrieved when Abhimanyu was killed. He was really, really in pain. But did he say, forget it, Krishna. I'm fighting for you and you did this to me? You didn't have to do this. I quit. You promised me in Bhagavad Gita that Kaunteya Pratijanehmi Name Bhakta Pranashrati. You said you would protect your devotee. Abhimanyu was your devotee. Why didn't you protect him? I quit. I'm going to Bombay. Get a job with the Mantralaya. But no, he was more enthusiastic, more determined to carry on with his service to the Lord. Krishna tells, Matra sparashas tu konteya sitosna sukha dukkata agama payano nityas tamstatiksha bharat. The non-permanent appearance, happiness, distress, success, failure, honor, dishonor, they change like the winter and summer seasons. One has to learn to tolerate the aggrievements, tolerate the joys of victory. We have to tolerate all these things and be fixed in our devotional service. Be fixed at the lotus feet of the Lord. And never stop chanting His holy name. Trinadapi sunichena taror iva sehishna. Taror iva sehishna, being tolerant like a tree. It doesn't mean being tolerant of material inflictions, like cold and heat and honor and dishonor. It also means being tolerant of the internal fluctuations of the mind and the emotions. And what does it mean to tolerate them? It means never to give up our purpose of purifying our hearts, serving our spiritual master and Krishna and the Vaishnavas. And that's what it takes to always chant the holy names. Does that answer your question? Honestly?
Last part, one point you said about the sukha, dukkha, man, apaman. The real meaning of rising above it is actually to not give up serving the Lord. That point was very nice, Maharaj. I think that gives a higher understanding of this verse on Bhagavad Gita. Thank you, Maharaj.
He's very tolerant of me. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.